Joy walked into an elegant salon, ready for a day of pampering. But just minutes later, a single sentence shattered her excitement. "We can't work with your hair." Humiliated, she left, unaware that this moment of rejection would ignite something far bigger than she could ever imagine. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's dive in. It was a crisp morning in the city, and Joy Williams walked with a spring in her step. Today was going to be her day. She had worked relentlessly for the past few months, juggling her corporate job, family commitments, and maintaining her personal life. A day of self-care was long overdue. With her curls bouncing in the cool morning air, she made her way to an upscale salon she had read rave reviews about online. She had made an appointment weeks in advance, and today she was finally going to have a moment to relax and pamper herself. The salon was located in a trendy part of the city, surrounded by boutique shops and artisanal cafes. It was known for its luxurious ambiance and top-tier services. As Joy approached, the sleek exterior of the salon sparkled in the sunlight. The large windows displayed modern, minimalist decor inside: white walls, gold accents, and rows of meticulously arranged hair products on gleaming glass shelves. Women walked out of the salon, hair perfectly styled, carrying themselves with the confidence that only comes from feeling good about how you look. Joy was eager to have that feeling too. As soon as she walked in, she was greeted by the scent of expensive products, a blend of floral and citrus. The sound of soft jazz played in the background, and a receptionist with a polite smile greeted her. Everything felt perfect. After checking in, Joy sat in the waiting area, flipping through a magazine while admiring the flawless, sleek hairstyles of the clients passing by. She couldn't wait to see what the stylist would do with her hair. She had always loved her natural curls, a source of pride and joy that connected her to her roots, her heritage. Today, she wanted a fresh style to match her vibrant personality. Minutes later, her name was called. Joy stood up, her heart lifting with excitement as she made her way to the stylist. The stylist, a woman in her early 30s with platinum blonde hair and a confident air, looked at Joy's hair with a slightly raised eyebrow. Joy thought nothing of it at first, assuming it was just part of the stylist's routine assessment. But as she sat in the chair, and the stylist ran her fingers through Joy's curls, the atmosphere began to change. The stylist hesitated, her fingers fumbling awkwardly through Joy's hair. After a few moments, she pulled back and sighed. "I'm really sorry," she began, her voice uncomfortable and unsure, "but I don't think I'll be able to work with your hair texture." Joy blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. Her heart sank as the words hit her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice low, not wanting to make a scene. The stylist shifted uncomfortably, glancing around as if searching for the right words. "It's just, well, your hair is a bit too difficult for me to work with. I'm not trained to handle this kind of texture. I don't want to mess it up." Joy's stomach tightened. "Too difficult?" she echoed. "But you're a professional stylist, right?" The woman nodded, still avoiding Joy's eyes. "Yes, but I specialize in different types of hair. I'm not experienced with this." The word "this" hung in the air like a blade, sharp and hurtful. A flush of humiliation crept over Joy's face. She glanced around the salon, suddenly aware of how out of place she felt. The other clients had straight, smooth hair, the kind that fell in soft waves or sleek styles. No one else in the salon looked like her, and now it was painfully clear that she didn't belong. "I see," Joy said quietly, her throat tightening. She stood up, fighting to keep her composure. "Thank you for your time," she added, her voice calm despite the turmoil raging inside her. She turned and walked out of the salon, feeling the weight of eyes on her as she left. The cold air hit her as she stepped outside, but the chill couldn't compare to the icy sting of rejection she had just experienced. She walked down the street, her head spinning. How had something so simple, a routine hair appointment, turned into such a humiliating experience? Her thoughts raced with disbelief. She had faced subtle forms of discrimination before, but this was new. To be turned away, not for lack of skill or a busy schedule, but simply because of the natural texture of her hair? Her identity? It felt like a slap in the face. Joy found a bench nearby and sat down, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. She wasn't sure if she wanted to cry, scream, or just disappear. All she had wanted was a day of self-care, but instead she was left feeling rejected, unwanted, and singled out for something that was deeply personal to her, her hair. Memories of her childhood flashed in her mind. Growing up, Joy had been taught to love her natural curls. Her mother always told her how beautiful her hair was, how it was a crown she should wear proudly. But the world around her didn't always see it that way. She remembered how other kids in school would touch her hair out of curiosity, making her feel like an exhibit. Even as an adult, she had encountered people who would make comments about her curls, asking how she managed them, or offering unsolicited advice on how to make them more manageable. But this was different. This wasn't just a passing comment or an ignorant question. This was a direct refusal. A refusal to acknowledge her beauty, her worth. The more Joy thought about it, the angrier she became. Why should her hair be seen as difficult or unmanageable? Why should she be made to feel less than because of the way she looked? Her anger slowly morphed into something more productive. Determination. Sitting on that bench, Joy made a decision. She wasn't going to let this experience defeat her. She wasn't going to let someone else's ignorance define her. If this salon didn't want to work with her hair, then she would find a way to celebrate it and help others do the same. As the initial shock of the experience faded, an idea began to form in Joy's mind. Maybe she didn't need that salon. Maybe she didn't need their validation. What if she created something herself? A space where people like her, with natural curls, coils, and kinks, could walk in and feel celebrated, not rejected. A salon where no one would be told their hair was too difficult. The idea took root, and with every passing moment, it grew stronger. Joy stood up from the bench, her resolve hardening. She was going to take this painful experience and turn it into something beautiful, something that could help others like her. As she walked back home, her steps were steady, her mind already racing with plans. This was only the beginning. Joy Williams spent the rest of that evening replaying the events at the salon over and over in her mind. Sitting in the comfort of her small apartment, her once safe haven felt tinged with the memory of rejection. Every time she thought about the stylist's hesitant words, "I don't think I can work with your hair," a knot of frustration grew in her chest. It wasn't just about her hair. It was about something deeper, something that touched the very core of how she viewed herself and how the world often saw her. Joy had always been a proud woman. She loved her natural hair, loved the way it reflected her culture, her identity, and her heritage. But that experience at the salon had ignited a fire within her, a burning desire to change the narrative, not just for herself, but for all the women who had ever felt the sting of being told they didn't fit into society's narrow standards of beauty. Lying in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Joy felt her thoughts transform. Instead of focusing on the hurt, she started to imagine the possibility of something new. What if she created a space that celebrated natural hair in all its beauty? What if she could turn this pain into something meaningful, not just for herself, but for others who had faced the same kind of rejection? The next morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She couldn't shake the idea that had come to her the night before: opening her own salon. The concept felt both exciting and terrifying at the same time. After all, she had no experience running a business, let alone managing a salon. She worked in corporate finance, a world that couldn't be more different from the beauty industry. But the more she thought about it, the more the idea thrilled her. Her mind buzzed with possibilities. A salon that catered specifically to natural black hair, a place where every curl, coil, and kink was celebrated and treated with the care it deserved. It would be a sanctuary for women who, like her, had been turned away or misunderstood. This wasn't just about opening a business. It was about building a community. But first, Joy needed to figure out how to make it happen. She spent the next few weeks doing intensive research. During lunch breaks at work, she devoured articles and books on entrepreneurship. After hours, she watched tutorials, attended online webinars, and sought advice from anyone who would listen. She wasn't naive about the challenges ahead. Starting a business required money, skill, and a whole lot of grit, all things she would need to gather quickly. But for the first time in a long while, Joy felt truly alive. The fire inside her was growing, pushing her forward. She began sketching out plans for the salon. She envisioned a warm, welcoming space where clients could walk in and immediately feel at home. Joy didn't want it to feel like a typical salon with harsh lighting and rigid chairs. She wanted Crown and Glory, the name she had already chosen, to feel more like a sanctuary, a place where women could relax and connect, a place that radiated pride and self-love. She pictured walls lined with art that celebrated Black beauty, natural textures, and vibrant colors. Every detail, from the products used to the stylists hired, would reflect the essence of what her salon stood for: empowerment, inclusivity, and community. But dreaming was one thing, turning it into reality was another. Joy's first step was securing funding. With limited savings, she realized she would need to apply for a small business loan. This idea alone was daunting, but she had spent years working in finance, and she knew how to make her case. She crafted a detailed business plan outlining her vision, her target market, and her projected growth. She highlighted the lack of salons in her city that specialized in natural black hair, proving there was a demand that wasn't being met. With the business plan in hand, she scheduled meetings with local banks and credit unions, pitching her idea with the same confidence she had used to excel in the corporate world. After several nerve-wracking meetings and a handful of rejections, Joy finally received the news she had been hoping for. One bank believed in her vision and agreed to provide her with the loan she needed to get started. It wasn't a massive amount, but it was enough to lease a small space, purchase equipment, and get the ball rolling. With that hurdle crossed, she could feel her dream beginning to take shape. Next came the challenge of finding the right space. Joy spent weekends visiting potential locations, trying to imagine how each one could be transformed into Crown and Glory. It took time, and there were moments of frustration when she couldn't find a space that felt right. But after weeks of searching, she finally stumbled upon a cozy storefront in the heart of a bustling neighborhood. It wasn't too big, but it had charm, character, and most importantly, potential. The moment she stepped inside, she could see it. The walls painted in earthy tones, plants lining the windowsills, mirrors adorned with gold frames, and a small waiting area filled with comfortable chairs and books on natural hair care. It was perfect. Joy signed the lease, and the real work began. She spent the following months overseeing renovations, hiring contractors, and working day and night to turn the empty space into the salon of her dreams. She learned about salon management, styling techniques, and the best natural products to use for different hair textures. She attended beauty expos, networked with other salon owners, and took courses on natural hair care, determined to become as knowledgeable as the stylists she would eventually hire. Slowly but surely, the pieces started to fall into place. She hired a team of stylists who shared her passion for natural hair and understood the importance of creating a safe, inclusive environment for their clients. These were not just any stylists. They were experts in working with unique textures and needs of black hair. Each of them brought their own experience, creativity, and vision to the team, and together they began to prepare for the salon's grand opening. For Joy, the experience was transformative. Each day that passed, she felt more connected to her purpose. She had taken the hurt and humiliation from that fateful day at the salon and turned it into something powerful. Crown and Glory wasn't just a business, it was a movement, a declaration that natural hair was beautiful, worthy, and deserving of celebration. As the grand opening approached, Joy stood in the center of her nearly completed salon, surrounded by the fruits of her labor. The walls were painted, the chairs were in place, and the air smelled of fresh paint and optimism. She could hardly believe how far she had come, but deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Crown and Glory was more than a dream. It was now a reality, and soon it would become a beacon of hope for women who, like her, had ever felt rejected or misunderstood. She had risen from the ashes of hurt and turned her pain into something beautiful, something lasting. As she looked around the space she had built, Joy smiled. This was her moment, and she was ready for whatever came next. The day of the grand opening was fast approaching, and Joy's emotions were a whirlwind of excitement and nerves. Crown and Glory was nearly ready. But it wasn't just the physical space that needed final touches. Joy herself had to face the gravity of what she was about to do. Opening a salon was no small feat, especially one with such a unique vision, one built on pride, community, and celebrating natural beauty. As the big day neared, she reminded herself of the journey that had led her here. She had taken her hurt and transformed it into a purpose that was bigger than herself. The morning of the opening was one of those crisp, sunny days that filled the city with energy. Joy arrived at the salon early, hours before anyone else would. The place smelled fresh, the scent of the natural products she'd chosen lingering in the air. The floors were polished, the stations were neatly arranged with tools and products, and the chairs looked inviting. The mirrors, framed in gold, reflected more than just the physical space. They reflected the beauty and pride of the people who would soon fill this place. As she stood in the center of the room, Joy felt a sense of calm wash over her. This was real. She had done it. After months of planning, setbacks, and hard work, Crown and Glory was more than just an idea. It was a living, breathing business. The final piece of the puzzle was the people. She knew that the clients she hoped to welcome through her doors would bring life to this space, turning it from a salon into a community. Her team of stylists began arriving soon after. Each one had been handpicked, not just for their skills, but for their passion and understanding of what the salon stood for. There was Tamika, an expert in protective styles, Aisha, a master at working with textured curls, and Danielle, who specialized in locks and braiding. They all shared the same enthusiasm for the opening day and the vision Joy had for the salon. The clock ticked closer to opening time, and Joy's heart raced. As the first clients were due to arrive, she went over everything once more. The salon was perfect, but Joy's mind was racing with questions. Would people come? Would they feel the love and care that had gone into creating the space? Would they walk out of here feeling beautiful and empowered? Finally, it was time. Joy walked over to the front door, took a deep breath, and unlocked it. The sound of the door opening felt symbolic, not just of the start of a business, but of a new chapter in her life. And as she stepped outside to welcome her first clients, she saw something she had only dreamed of. A line of women waiting outside, chatting excitedly as they held on to hope that Crown and Glory could offer them the experience they had been searching for. Joy's heart swelled with pride. These were the women she had built this space for. Women of all ages, with different textures of natural hair, tight curls, loose coils, and every variation in between. Some were accompanied by their children, eager to introduce them to a place where their natural beauty would be celebrated from a young age. They came with excitement in their eyes and in some cases a hesitancy that Joy recognized all too well. They had been in her shoes before, uncertain about whether they would be understood or treated with care. The first client to walk through the door was a woman in her early 30s, with thick, coiled hair that framed her face. Her name was Marissa, and from the moment she sat down in the styling chair, Joy could tell she was nervous. As Tamika, one of the stylists, began to work on her hair, Joy overheard their conversation. "I've been to so many places where they either don't know what to do with my hair, or they act like it's too much trouble," Marissa said, her voice filled with a familiar mix of frustration and resignation. "I almost didn't come today because I wasn't sure it'd be any different." Tamika smiled warmly and said, "Well, you're in the right place now. We're here to make sure you leave feeling beautiful, because your hair is beautiful just the way it is." Marissa visibly relaxed in the chair, and Joy felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This was exactly why she had created Crown and Glory. She wanted every woman who walked through these doors to feel seen, appreciated, and celebrated for who they were. No need to conform to anyone else's idea of beauty. As she watched Tamika expertly work with Marissa's curls, Joy knew she had made the right decision. The rest of the day was a blur of appointments, conversations, and laughter. Women came in with a cautious hope and left with confidence, their heads held high and their natural beauty shining. Word of the salon spread quickly, and soon there were more clients coming through the doors than Joy had anticipated. The community had embraced Crown and Glory, and Joy could feel the beginnings of something bigger than just a salon. This was the start of a movement. A few weeks passed, and Crown & Glory was thriving. Clients returned not only for hair care, but for the experience of being in a place where they felt understood and valued. Joy's salon had become a hub for empowerment, where people could come to not only take care of their hair, but to connect with others who shared their experiences. The conversations that filled the salon were as important as the hairstyles themselves. Women swapped stories of their hair journeys, discussed their struggles with finding products that worked for them, and shared tips on self-care. Crown & Glory was becoming a sanctuary. Joy also made it a point to give back to the community that had so warmly embraced her salon. She organized workshops on natural hair care, teaching clients how to maintain and style their hair between appointments. She invited local, Black-owned beauty brands to showcase their products, providing them with a platform to reach new customers. And she offered free services to women in need, ensuring that beauty and self-care were accessible to everyone, regardless of their circumstances. Despite the success, Joy knew that running a business wasn't without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, especially when financial pressures began to mount. The initial loan had covered the basics, but Joy soon realized that managing a growing business required constant attention to budgeting, marketing, and customer service. She spent late nights going over expenses, figuring out how to balance paying her stylists fairly while keeping the salon financially healthy. There were days when she felt overwhelmed, unsure if she could handle the demands of being both a creative force and a businesswoman. But every time she felt herself wavering, she would think back to that day at the other salon. She would remember the sting of rejection, and it would fuel her determination. Joy wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing it for every woman who had ever been made to feel that their hair was too difficult or unmanageable. Crown & Glory was a space where those words didn't exist. As the months passed, Joy became more confident in her role as a business owner. She built strong relationships with her clients, making sure every person who walked through the doors felt like part of the Crown & Glory family. She continued to learn, evolve, and adapt, knowing that the beauty industry and the world was constantly changing. But no matter what challenges lay ahead, Joy knew one thing for certain. Crown & Glory was more than just a salon. It was a beacon of empowerment, a place where women could reclaim their beauty, their confidence, and their worth. And for Joy, that was the greatest success of all. As Crown & Glory continued to grow, so did its reputation. What had started as a dream fueled by frustration had become a pillar in the local community. The salon was no longer just a place to get your hair done. It was a sanctuary, a gathering spot, a symbol of empowerment. For many women, Crown & Glory wasn't just a salon. It was a place where they felt understood, celebrated, and seen. Joy had created something special, something bigger than even she had imagined. Word of the salon spread quickly, reaching beyond the neighborhood and attracting attention from local media outlets. A few months after opening, Joy received a call from a popular local news station. They wanted to feature her salon in a segment about Black-owned businesses making an impact in the community. Joy was thrilled and nervous in equal measure. The attention was exciting, but she knew it would come with new challenges: managing more clients, keeping up with demand, and ensuring that the heart of her business remained intact as it grew. The day the news crew came to the salon, Joy could hardly believe it. As they set up their cameras and microphones, she felt a swell of pride. She stood at the center of the salon, explaining her journey to the reporter, who was captivated by her story. "We're here because Crown & Glory is changing the narrative around natural hair care," the reporter said as the camera rolled. "Joy Williams has created a space that not only embraces natural beauty, but uplifts an entire community." Joy spoke about the rejection she had faced at the other salon and how it had sparked her determination to create something different. "I wanted to build a place where women like me could come and feel celebrated for who they are," she explained, her voice steady but emotional. Crown & Glory is about more than just hair. It's about self-love, empowerment, and community. The interview aired that week, and the response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from women all over the city, some congratulating Joy on her success, others sharing their own experiences of feeling rejected because of their hair. Many wanted to book appointments, and others just wanted to visit the salon to experience the energy and positivity for themselves. Business boomed, and soon Joy found herself with a waiting list that stretched weeks ahead. As the salon's popularity grew, so did its impact on the local Black community. Crown & Glory became a space for important conversations about beauty, identity, and acceptance. Women gathered not just to get their hair styled, but to connect with one another, to share their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. For Joy, this was the real success of Crown & Glory. It had become a hub for solidarity and empowerment, a place where women lifted each other up. One Saturday afternoon, Joy hosted a workshop on natural hair care for young girls. The salon was filled with laughter and excitement as mothers brought their daughters to learn how to care for their curls, coils, and kinks. The girls sat in front of the mirrors, wide-eyed as they watched the stylist demonstrate different techniques for braiding, twisting, and moisturizing. Joy felt a sense of pride as she looked around the room. This was the future. These young girls would grow up knowing that their natural hair was beautiful, that they didn't need to change or conform to anyone's standards. They were being taught to love themselves from the start. One of the girls, a shy 12-year-old named Layla, sat quietly as her mother helped her with a twist-out style. Layla had been struggling with her confidence for years, unsure of how to care for her hair and often feeling out of place at school. Her mother had heard about Crown & Glory and hoped that the salon could help her daughter embrace her natural beauty. As Layla sat in front of the mirror, Joy knelt down beside her, gently running her fingers through the girl's thick, beautiful curls. "You have such gorgeous hair," Joy said softly. "I wish I had hair like yours when I was your age." Layla smiled shyly, her eyes lighting up for the first time that day. "Really?" she asked. "Absolutely," Joy replied. "And you know what? You're gonna love it too. You just need to learn how to take care of it, and once you do, your hair will shine just as brightly as you do." Layla's face softened, and for the first time in a long while, she looked at her reflection with a glimmer of pride. Her mother, standing beside her, gave Joy a grateful nod. These were the moments that mattered most to Joy, the quiet, personal victories that showed her she was making a difference. In the months that followed, Crown & Glory continued to expand its reach. Joy began partnering with local schools and community centers to host workshops, not only for natural hair care, but for self-confidence and empowerment. She wanted to ensure that the next generation of Black girls grew up feeling beautiful in their own skin, that they knew their hair wasn't something to hide or change, but something to celebrate. The salon also became a platform for other Black-owned businesses. Joy regularly hosted pop-up events, inviting local vendors to showcase their products, from handmade beauty supplies to jewelry and clothing. These events drew crowds from all over the city, creating a sense of solidarity and mutual support within the community. Crown & Glory wasn't just a business, it was a movement. But with success came new challenges. As the demand for appointments grew, Joy realized that the salon was outgrowing its current space. She needed to hire more stylists, expand her services, and possibly even move to a larger location. The prospect was both exciting and daunting. She knew she couldn't handle everything on her own, so she brought on a business consultant to help her navigate the next phase of growth. With their help, Joy began to map out a plan for expanding Crown & Glory while staying true to the core values that had made it so special. Joy also found herself navigating the pressures that came with running a successful business. With so much attention and demand, the stakes were higher than ever. She spent sleepless nights worrying about finances, about maintaining the quality of the salon's services, and about staying connected to her clients. The last thing she wanted was for Crown & Glory to lose the personal touch that had made it such a beloved space. But as always, when the doubts crept in, Joy returned to her why. She remembered the day she was turned away from that other salon, the way she had felt invisible, unimportant, and misunderstood. She reminded herself that Crown & Glory existed to change that narrative, to be a place where no one ever felt that way again. And with that reminder came the strength to keep going. One day, as Joy was wrapping up another busy day at the salon, she received a visitor she never expected. The doorbell chimed, and when she looked up, she saw the stylist from the upscale salon where this entire journey had begun. The woman stood in the doorway, looking unsure of herself, but determined. Joy felt a wave of surprise, and a rush of old feelings resurfaced. It had been so long since that moment, and she hadn't thought about the stylist in months. But now, here she was, standing in the very space that had been born from the hurt and rejection of that day. "I don't know if you remember me," the stylist said softly, stepping inside. "But I was the one who turned you away." Joy remained quiet for a moment, absorbing the situation. She remembered that day vividly, the sting of being told her hair was too difficult to handle. But she had come so far since then, and now, standing in her own successful salon, she felt no anger, only closure. "I remember," Joy said gently. The stylist shifted, clearly uncomfortable but sincere. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she continued, her voice low. "I didn't realize at the time how much harm I caused. I've seen what you've built here, and it's incredible. You've created something truly beautiful." Joy took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It was a full-circle moment, the kind of closure she hadn't even realized she needed. With a kind smile, she replied, "Thank you. It was a tough day, but it pushed me to do something I never imagined I could. I hope we can all learn to be more understanding and accepting of each other." The two women exchanged a few more words, and when the stylist left, Joy felt lighter. She had taken something painful and turned it into a force for good. And in doing so, she had not only transformed her life, but the lives of countless others. Crown and Glory was now more than a salon. It was a beacon of empowerment and acceptance, a community that celebrated natural beauty in all its forms. And for Joy, that was the greatest victory of all. As the evening sun cast a golden glow through the large windows of Crown and Glory, Joy felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle over her. The day had been long, filled with clients, consultations, and a successful pop-up event that showcased local Black-owned businesses. Yet, even after the hustle and bustle, the salon hummed with a quiet energy that was both comforting and powerful. Joy sat at her desk, catching her breath and organizing her thoughts when the doorbell chimed. She wasn't expecting any more clients, so the sound piqued her curiosity. She turned toward the door, and her heart gave a soft jolt. It was her, the stylist from the upscale salon. The woman who had once dismissed her with a few cutting words was now standing in the doorway, looking both uncertain and humbled. For a moment, Joy's mind flashed back to that day. The sting of rejection, the humiliation, the quiet walk back to her car where she had swallowed her tears. It had been one of the most painful moments of her life, yet it had also been the spark for something extraordinary. Crown and Glory existed because of that day. Joy had taken a moment of personal pain and transformed it into a force of empowerment, not just for herself, but for an entire community. The stylist stood awkwardly in the entryway, clutching her purse as if she didn't know what to do with her hands. Her eyes swept across the salon, taking in the elegant decor, the warm lighting, and the vibrant energy that lingered even after hours. Joy could see that the woman was nervous, perhaps unsure of how to proceed, but her presence alone spoke volumes. "I don't know if you remember me," the stylist said quietly, stepping further inside. "But I was the one who turned you away." Joy smiled softly, nodding. "I remember." The woman's voice trembled slightly as she continued. "I've been following your journey. I've seen the news stories and heard people in the industry talking about what you've done here. I didn't realize back then how much harm my words caused, and for that, I'm truly sorry." There it was, an apology that Joy had never expected, but one that in some small way felt necessary to bring this chapter of her life to a close. She had moved beyond the hurt long ago, but hearing the words still mattered. It was as if the last loose thread of the past had finally been tied off. Joy took a deep breath, feeling a swell of emotions rise within her. The old pain was still there, but it was softened by the life she had built since. "Thank you," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "That day was hard for me, but it pushed me to create something that's helped a lot of people. So in a way, I'm grateful for what happened." The stylist's eyes shimmered with tears she was clearly trying to blink away. "What you've done here is incredible," she said, glancing around the salon again. "I never imagined I never imagined something like this could come from such a moment. You've built something truly beautiful." Joy smiled warmly, her heart swelling with pride. Crown and Glory was more than just a business. It was a movement, a community, a safe haven. And while the pain that had started it all would always be part of her story, it no longer defined her. "I wanted to build a space where people felt seen, where they felt celebrated for who they are," Joy explained. "That's what Crown and Glory is. It's not just about hair. It's about self-love, acceptance, and empowerment." The stylist nodded, her gaze softening as she absorbed Joy's words. "I can see that now. And I hope that I can learn from this too. To be better, to be more aware of the impact we have on others." Joy appreciated the sentiment, and for the first time, she felt the last remnants of anger dissolve completely. She wasn't the same person who had walked into that upscale salon months ago. She had grown, evolved, and created something far greater than she had ever imagined. With a nod of understanding, Joy extended her hand. "We all have room to grow," she said. "Thank you for coming here today." The stylist shook her hand, her expression filled with relief and gratitude. As she left the salon, Joy stood for a moment in the quiet, reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had come full circle, from rejection to triumph, and now there was only one direction left to move, forward. In the months following the stylist's visit, Crown and Glory continued to thrive, but Joy's focus had shifted slightly. She had spent so much time building the business, expanding the services, and ensuring the salon was a sanctuary for her community, that she realized she had barely taken a moment to reflect on her personal growth. One day, after another workshop for young girls learning to embrace their natural hair, Joy stood in front of the large mirror at the salon, staring at her own reflection. Her hair, thick and coiled, framed her face like a crown. She ran her fingers through it, marveling at how far she had come in her own journey of self-acceptance. She thought of Layla, the shy 12-year-old who had come to the salon months ago, unsure of her beauty and uncertain of her worth. Joy had seen herself in that young girl, the insecurity, the longing to fit in, the desire to be accepted. But now, Layla had become a regular at the salon, her confidence blooming with each visit. She had even started mentoring some of the younger girls who came in, teaching them how to care for their hair and, more importantly, how to love themselves. Layla's journey mirrored Joy's own in so many ways, and it made Joy realize that her legacy wasn't just the salon or the business she had built. Her true legacy was the impact she had on the lives of the women and girls who walked through her doors. One evening, after closing up the salon, Joy gathered her team, the stylists, the assistants, the front desk staff, and invited them to sit together in the heart of the space they had all helped to create. She looked around at the group of women who had become like family to her, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude. "I just want to say thank you," Joy began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Crown and Glory wouldn't be what it is today without each of you. This isn't just my dream anymore, it's ours. We've created something beautiful here, something that's changing lives, and I couldn't have done it without your support, your dedication, and your belief in this vision." The women smiled, nodding in agreement. They had all witnessed the transformations that took place in the salon, not just physical transformations, but emotional and spiritual ones as well. Crown and Glory was a place where people came to feel seen, to feel celebrated, and to feel empowered. As they sat together in the warmth of the salon, Joy realized that this was just the beginning. There was so much more work to be done, so many more lives to touch, and so many more stories to share. Crown and Glory would continue to grow, but its heart would always remain the same. Joy had turned rejection into triumph, pain into empowerment, and now she was ready to embrace the next chapter of her journey, whatever that may be. And as she looked around at the women who had become her community, she knew one thing for certain. Crown and Glory was more than a salon. It was a legacy of love, resilience, and empowerment that would continue to shine for generations to come. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Click on the video now to watch. We appreciate your support, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.